Okay, I'm going to bring you this kind of strange pump. It fits a 1971 Gaz Russian Jeep. I don't read Russian, so I can't tell you what make this is, but and looks like everything's going to have to be handmade for this thing. I do recognize the CCCP on it, but that's about it. So we're going to go through it and see if we can't put a gas back on the streets. We'll be back. Now in doing this, I have no idea what to expect, but we're going to go through it, see if we can't figure it out as we go. This will be my first time at one of these. One thing I forgot to do is mark the orientation of the body to the fuel casting to this top cover. Even though it will only go on one way, I could take a picture of it, but I like to mark them just in case something goes wrong with the picture. Okay, we got a pulsator. It's all falling apart. This is kind of similar to a Carter pump when it comes to this part of it. Carter uses the same filter over the valves. Oh yeah. And this is the outlet, so the fuel is going to come up against this valve and go out, so this part has to be closed off. Where this is open to this area, which is the inlet. Let's get this apart here. We can speed things up a little bit. A lot of debris, huh? Nice. Okay, this is looks like it's held on by a little nut. Makes things a little bit easier. Yep. There's a spring under there. And a seal. It's no problem. Looks like in order to get that pull rod out of there, I'm going to have to remove this screw, and with any luck it goes right straight through to the other side and holds that arm in. But I have a funny feeling it's just going to be a short one. Yep. So we're going to have to figure out how to get that pin out of there, as you can't see it other than through these two little holes. Well, we'll be right back. Well, I got the pin out after taking this little plug here, this screw out of here. Luckily the pin had some play in it, so just turning it sideways, taking some of the pressure off of this and tapping it a couple of times, the pin fell right out. Thank God. So we was able to get that, unhook the arm, which was, this is the arm that came out, and the pull rod hooks onto that. But I think it was supposed to be this way instead of just this small amount. I don't know why it would have been off the top. There's no reason for it. What makes more sense is it's down there. Anyway, we got a little bit of wear up the top here, but it should be alright. Once that washer gets on the top here, it'll cover a bigger area. And this is the priming lever. I have to put all the screws back in. I have to reuse these screws because I don't have any whatever size that is. I'll just clean up the heads just a little bit. It's a little galled from screwdriver skipping. Anyway, get these valves out. They come out the exact same way that a carter would. It's made up of 4 pieces. Spring, this cone, and it sits together like that. So what we do is we turn it over and we tap on the ends here ever so lightly, and it drives that pin out. And you get all the pieces, which we'll hold on to. I like this. A little piece of brass sits over the top. The spring sits against it, and what it does is it keeps this valve from cupping up. And that piece is the same size as the seat. So the edges, if you, I don't think you can see it. We'll look real close at this. You can see how it's just starting to cup up around the edges. But with that piece of that brass shim, it sits on there and holds that down. So we'll just put these aside. And I have a feeling our little rivet. It's going to fit just right inside there. I'll be able to use the Carter valves on it. Now again, I have to reuse these screws for this side too. So we thread them back in. Keeps glass beads from getting down in the holes and allows me to clean up the screws at the same time. And normally I would remove these fittings, but I'm not gonna. Okay, heading over to the glass bead tank, clean everything up, and when I come back it'll be ready to reassemble. Okay, now we've got everything all cleaned up. The surface nice and flat. Same thing with the fuel casting and that pulsator. Now we got to put I had to do a small change on the diaphragm assembly. The old one, remember before, it had this washer. And it's real thin. Well, the seal that came with it, I don't have that type of seal. So I switched it over to a Carter one. Uses a Carter diaphragm. Now I gotta get this down inside to hook it on that with this arm. We get the spring. This is it takes 12 hands to do this. Just hook it onto that. Slide this pin. It's gonna go. It's not always the easiest thing to do. How about if I do this off camera? Oh yeah, that was fun. It had to do with this. With this priming lever. And I couldn't get the pin in there because the priming lever was sitting up where it is now. As you can see, it pulled it down. I needed it right there. Now it works like it's supposed to. Whew, that wasn't fun. Now, as long as all these three surfaces are nice and flat, we can install the valves. Now, our version of that valve is a rivet, a conical spring, a Bellevue washer, and that rubber plate. Now I want to press this in to the casting. Just enough so that it starts to come through the other side. And that Bellevue washer will keep that pressure on the outside of that rubber plate. Now we got two valves on this side. And our pulsated diaphragm and this plate. Now this cover, line up the screws, and snug them down. We need these good and tight. Don't need any leakage around here. Now to make sure that these valves are going to seal right, this is the inlet, so we should be able to blow air in and not pull any air out. Same thing with this, pull air out and not blow it in. Perfect. Now we can put it all together. And we get two screws. Get one cut. Come on now. Get one cut on either side. Makes things a little easier. Get the rest of these screws cut, run down about halfway. Don't tighten them up. Wish I had new screws for this. I just don't carry any of the metric ones. It's probably a, I don't know what size. Whatever's close to a 1032 machine screw. Now we want to preload this diaphragm. Pull it so that it pulls the diaphragm in a little bit. So it pulls it down into the pump. Now we can tighten up the screws. I like to get at least 4 of them tight before priming lever. Now we can tighten down the rest of these screws. And I'll come up with a solution for that after I'm done. Okay, I can see where the problem is and why this thing gets in the way. Oop. There's a big piece of casting missing. Right in here. And that is supposed to stop the lever right by the looks of where the thing is, right about there. What it's doing is letting it go all the way up, and now it interferes with the pull rod going up and down. See how that went down like that? As soon as this goes in the car, that's going to go up. So what's going to have to happen is what I would do in this case is I would drill a hole what has to happen is you have to drill a hole right in there and drive a pin in so it keeps the lever from going up. I don't know what the customer's going to do about this. If that can't be done, then another body casting has to be found. I think what I'll do is I'm going to suggest that the customer leave this spring off. It won't go up there by itself. It's easier to see the casting that's broken. All this part right here, this piece is supposed to come right up around to this. At one time somebody hit it and broke it off. Now this is ready to go back to the customer, and hopefully the customer will see this and see what the problem is. And to get around it, don't use that spring, that return spring. It's not like it's gonna return on its own anyway. Let's go for it. Works great. It's for a little van, Jeep, Russian made. That's it. See what happens. Any questions, leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll answer them. Hopefully this will work out fine. Thanks for watching.